What is good, everybody? This is your guy Manny, and this is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. So today we're gonna talk pre-draft before the NFL draft. This is my top 15 Dynasty wide receivers. You guys, let me know in the comment section whether I'm wrong, whether I'm right, whether like what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and we can have a discussion at the end of this video in the comment section. I'm gonna go ahead and run my intro. We're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to go from 15 to number one. So it was so hard making my list because when I got to 12, I wanted to make this a top 12. So, wide receiver ones. But then at the end of it, there were some guys that should be on the list that were removed from the list. So I just had to do this thing right. I had to do it all over again. So coming in at number 15 is my guy, Chris Olave. Chris Olave from Ohio State. Ohio State is starting to become that team that just continues to produce top-tier wide receivers. Chris Olave, man, had a great season. I'm going to pull up his numbers. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I see, and then we can kind of navigate this thing together. Chris Olave coming in at number 15. He's 22 years old right now. So I always look at age. Age is a pretty big factor. He's a guy that's going in drafts, in the third round, fourth round if you're lucky. Sometimes in dynasty startup leagues. Chris Olave, man, had a great season last year, had 119 targets, 72 receptions, 1,000 yards, 42. He also had 4 receiving touchdowns. And this is with quarterbacks such as Andy Dalton or even a Jameis Winston. We saw what Olave's numbers look like when he played with a guy like Jameis Winston. We're all hoping that, somebody goes to the Saints. We've seen the Saints interview Derek Carr. We've seen the Saints being interested in a QB. Even if it's a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't really like Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jimmy Garoppolo has produced some top-tier wide receivers based off of the system that Jimmy Garoppolo was in. Olave's a guy that can run all the routes, right? But he's a guy that can take, a small little five-yard reception or even a 10-yard reception, and then he can turn on the jets and he can gain more yards. So I love Chris Olave. I think he's my dynasty wide receiver 15. Coming in at number 14, I had to go with an OG. I had to go with somebody who's done this thing for so many years. It was just kind of hard, like not having this guy in my top 12. So I said, well, let me create a spot for him. And this is Davante Adams. Davante Adams is going to come in at number 14 for me. Now, you guys are probably thinking, Davante Adams is old. Why are you picking Davante Adams? Because Davante Adams is still legit. Davante Adams is a dog, man. And this guy goes out and he produces. Last year, for example, he had 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. You can't tell me, because he's old, I'm not going to rock with him. His first season without Aaron Rodgers, he still goes out there and still produces Davante like a season. Okay, here's his target share the last 3 years. 2020, he had 148 targets with Aaron Rodgers, right? Then 2021, 169 yards with Aaron Rodgers. Mind you, 14 games, 16 games, right? Then this year, he plays a full 17-game season. He had 180 targets. His receptions the last 3 years, 115, 123, 100. His yards, 1,300, 1,500, 1,500. Touchdowns, 18 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, and 14 touchdowns. Davante Adams is still doing Davante Adams type stuff. So you got to put some respect on this guy's name. He is still as legit as they come. Yes, his age. Yes, he's 31. Sorry, 30. Going to be 31. But we always hear this, we don't see receivers produce once they reach 30. If Davante Adams is being offered to me on a win-now team in my dynasty squad, I'm grabbing Davante Adams. I do not mind trading anywhere between 109 to 112 in order to acquire Davante Adams to then push for my playoff run. If I'm a contending team and I'm like in the playoffs and then the trade deadline is coming up, I'm willing to mortgage my future. I'm willing to mortgage my 24 first-round pick to grab a Davante Adams to then help my title hopes. He's still as legit as they come. Davante Adams coming in at number 14. At number 13, this was another guy that I did not want to remove from my list, but this guy was just so good, and it was just kind of hard to figure out a spot for my guy, T. Higgins. T. Higgins comes in at number 13, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, Manny, why is T. Higgins so low on your list? I'm going to break it down to you guys why T. Higgins is so low on my list, but there's some other guys that are above T. Higgins that are as legit as they come. But when you look at it, T. Higgins has the perfect offensive situation. He has the perfect quarterback situation. He has Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a dog. You hear me? He is as legit as they come. And if they can keep that trio between Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow together for a long time, that's going to be great for the Cincinnati Bengals. But here's the thing. T. Higgins might get traded. He's not getting traded. He might go to another team. If that happens, you can see T. Higgins climb this list. But for the fact that he's number 13 on my list, let's just look at what he's done the last 3 years. 2020, he had 67 receptions, 908 yards, 6 touchdowns. 74 receptions the next year, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Then the next year, 75 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. The only reason why he doesn't have a 100-catch season or a 1,400-yard type season or double-digits type season is because of Jamar Chase. So that's why I have T. Higgins at 13. He should be 7 or 6, realistically, if he was the main guy or if he had more targets. Now, his target share isn't bad. He's getting anywhere between 108 targets to 111 targets in the last 3 years. That's not bad. I need his yards to go up to about 1,200, 1,300, at least 1,200. You can start to see T. Higgins climb people's rankings. He's 24 years old, so that's another thing. He's 24 years old, not a bad age, but it's like there's still some guys that are younger. If you're doing the whole age thing and then the projection thing and the upside thing, I love T. Higgins a lot, 6'4". He's just a really good wide receiver. I wanted my team to draft him the year he came out. I told everybody that T. Higgins was going to be good. Go to my Twitter, check out the all the tweets. Just put me in there and then just look for T. Higgins, and you'll see all the tweets that I was able to put up. It's Manny Chakuba on Twitter. So yeah, T. Higgins, man, at my number 13. And you guys probably wondering, who's number 12? Now you guys are going to be on me like, okay, Manny, who did you have above T. Higgins? You guys will see why I made the list the way that I did. Like I said, this was a tough list. And like I said, let me know in the comment section whether you like my list, whether you don't like my list, whether this guy is higher, this guy should be higher, or this guy should be lower. So the next guy on my list is DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, there was a time when DK Metcalf was the number 1 dynasty wide receiver or a top 3, top 5 dynasty wide receiver. But the thing is that the league has found more and more talent. So therefore, DK has to kind of be pushed down. And then with Russell Wilson leaving Seattle and going to Denver, that also put DK Metcalf a little bit down on the list, but it's okay. He made it to my top 12. I have DK Metcalf over T. Higgins. I have DK Metcalf over Devontae Adams because of age. And then I have DK Metcalf over Chris Olave because obviously experience. Now, some people might say, hey, I'd rather have Olave than have DK Metcalf. It's debatable. Let's look at what DK Metcalf was able to do last year without Russell Wilson. He had 90 receptions last year, 1,000 yards, and then he had 6 touchdowns. Now, you guys see me kind of get on T. Higgins for not getting a lot of receptions. DK was able to do this with another receiver in Tyler Lockett who put up some numbers, right? So 141 targets last year, 90 receptions. That's kind of where I like these top 12 guys to be, at least 90 receptions. But sometimes they don't get the 90 receptions, but then they get the yards. If they're not getting the yards, they're also getting the touchdowns. So what he lacks in touchdowns, he made up for it this year in receptions. And I see his reception numbers going up and up and up. As Lockett starts to get a little older and starts to decline, you're going to see DK Metcalf skyrocket to the moon. Last 3 years, he had 83 receptions, 75 receptions, 90 receptions this year, right? His yards, 1,300 yards in 2020, 967 yards in 2021, and then 1,048 yards in 2022. The touchdowns obviously dropped off from playing with Russell Wilson and then playing with Geno Smith. But I think if Geno Smith comes back, those two guys coming together can still do some damage going forward. Let's say Seattle drafts CJ Stroud, right? He's not going to be the guy right away. But when he is, he could be a guy that could pair well with DK Metcalf for years to come. So that's something to kind of look at. I look at quarterback situation, and what this is telling me is that DK Metcalf is quarterback proof. I love what he was able to do last year with the likes of Geno Smith. So DK Metcalf comes in at number 12. The next guy coming in at number 11, he's a guy that definitely should have been higher on my list, but it's okay. This guy right here, he's going to be climbing the ranks as the seasons go on. And coming in at number 11 is Devontae Smith. This guy right here is special. This guy right here is box office. He's 40. He is 24 years old, but he just continues to get better and better and better. And when he came into the league, it was like, oh, he's slender. He has like Kevin Durant type legs, Kevin Durant type body, but at 6 foot playing wide receiver. He actually looks bigger than 6 foot. He plays taller than 6 foot. This guy is going to be special. And pretty soon he will be the best receiver on the Eagles. So keep an eye out on that. Devontae Smith, what did he do last year? He balled out. He played alongside a pretty good wide receiver and still was able to ball out with a quarterback that y'all was saying that couldn't pass, with a quarterback that people said was a running back until this season. Now they're putting some respect on Jalen Hurts' name. Jalen Hurts took this team to Super Bowl, and this team is only going to continue to get better. In 2021, Devontae Smith had 64 receptions, 916 yards receiving, and 5 touchdowns, right? Had a pretty good season. The next season, 2022, 136 targets for 95 receptions. I told you guys, that 90 reception number is important for me to get into my top 12. I need that. And if you're not giving me that, you got to give me some other category of significance. 1,100 yards, that's almost that 1,200 yard mark that I like out of these stud wide receivers. He almost hit that. So let's just call it 1,196, like it says here. And then he had 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns are solid. And that's the another separator why guys can't climb the list, because if you don't have at least 7 touchdowns, it's kind of hard for you to kind of advance unless you're getting mad reception. So Devontae Smith comes in at number 11. Like I said, he's 24 years old. Eventually, real soon, maybe in 2 years, Devontae Smith might end up being the best wide receiver on the Eagles. The next guy on my list is a guy, he's a newcomer, he's a rookie. This guy right here should be higher on my list, but out of respect, out of this guy being a young buck, we got to go ahead and just kind of bring him down a little bit and then have him come up just a little bit. So he's coming in at number 10. It's my guy, Garrett Wilson. He's the wide receiver that I told you guys that this guy right here was going to be the number one rookie, number one wide receiver. And a lot of people had things to say. Oh, they weren't sure. Garrett Wilson is a real deal. Another guy that, with his size, he's smaller, 184 pounds. But this guy right here, he's a yak monster. Yards after the catch, he catches the ball and he just makes magic happen. Garrett Wilson at number 10. He's 22 years old. So I love the age factor there. And this guy has a chance to continue to get better. As long as he stays healthy, the sky's the limit for this guy. This guy right here played with no quarterback. He played with no quarterback. And now y'all going to say, okay, Manny, I'm gonna get you on this. Oh, he didn't have the receptions. He had 83 receptions. He had 1,100 yards, right? He had 4 touchdowns. So what makes Garrett Wilson so special? He did this with Zach Wilson. He did this with Mike White. Who are those guys? What are those, right? Those are not quarterbacks. And he was able to excel. He was able to reach 1,100 yards. When y'all told me that, oh, Garrett Wilson is going to the wrong offense, there's nobody ever makes it on the Jets. Oh, the Jets aren't this, the Jets aren't that. But guess what? He was able to produce, and he's only going to get better. Just imagine if Aaron Rodgers happens to go to the Jets. Just imagine if Derek Carr happens to go to the Jets. All of these numbers are going to skyrocket. You're looking at about 100 receptions. You're looking at maybe 1,500 yards. He is that talented. He is that special to hit all of those marks. I don't want to get into the game logs. I don't want to show you guys, some of his highlight games. It doesn't really matter. You guys, if you guys know Garrett Wilson, you guys can go look it up for yourself. If you don't know who Garrett Wilson is, this guy right here is special, and I have Garrett Wilson as my number 10 Dynasty wide receiver. Now, coming in at number 9 was a guy that I wish he was higher, but he's coming off of an injury. Number 9, I have Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is special. This guy had a amazing season last year, right? Well, 2 years ago, when he had that magical season. He had 191 targets. He caught 145 receptions. 145 receptions. This guy had 1947 yards. He almost had 2,000 yards. He should have won the MVP. Not only that, he got 16 touchdowns that year. He was averaging 25.9 points a game, fantasy-wise. 25.9 points a game. He was as consistent as they came. And this season, he played 9 games. If you double this, he's possibly right where he left off. He had 75 receptions in 9 games. This guy had 812 yards receiving in 9 games. This guy had 6 touchdowns in 9 games. You add another 7 games to this, the sky's the limit to what kind of numbers Cooper Kupp would have produced. Cooper Kupp might have even broke his reception numbers once again. He might have easily gotten to 150 receptions. There's no doubt in my mind. He could have easily gotten to, let's just say, 1,600 yards receiving. He would have instantly gotten to, let's just say, 12 touchdowns. And yet, Cooper Kupp was averaging 22.4 points a game, and he was a number 1 wide receiver in points per game, and that's 2 years in a row. So I had to put Cooper Kupp in the top 10. You can say, oh, the age. Cooper Kupp is 29 years old. I get it. Cooper Kupp is a professional. Cooper Kupp gets open. Cooper Kupp is like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL still today. So coming off of an injury, Matthew Stafford is coming back. McVay is coming back. These are some of the factors that made me say, you know what? Cooper Kupp needs to stay where he's at in terms of being a top 10 dynasty wide receiver. Even at this age, you can't tell me that Cooper Kupp cannot help you to win championships. It's similar to Devontae Smith. We all get the age thing. But if we're talking about dynasty rankings, even with the age, give me Cooper Kupp at the number 9. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about Cooper Kupp. We all know him. We all love him. Cooper Kupp. He's Cooper Kupp, man. So coming in at number 8, the reason why I have this guy over Cooper Kupp is for the fact that he's slightly younger. I love the team that he's on. I love this guy's quarterback more than I love Cooper Kupp's quarterback. And that's Stephon Diggs coming in at number 8. He's 29 years old. In that same boat, he's going to be hitting 30 soon. But at the end of the day, if you are in a win now squad, or if you have a win now mentality, Stephon Diggs is still legit. And he's still playing with Josh Allen. I get that offense kind of, went down the drain towards the end of the year and even into the playoffs. But, that connection is still there. What this guy tells me is that he's consistent when it comes to getting targets. Last 3 years, 166 targets, 164 targets, and 155 targets. So he's averaging over 160 targets each and every single year. He plays just about every single game. In the last 3 years, he's missed no games. He has missed no games because in 2020, it was still 16 games. So he's played all the games the last 3 years. So he just models durability and consistency. The kind of routes he runs, he's smart. He knows how to get down. He knows how to get out of bounds. Stephon Diggs is amazing. Receptions, the last 3 years, 127 receptions, 103 receptions, and 110 receptions. So the receptions are there, right? The yards, last 3 years, 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards, 1,400 yards. The yards are there. So, what can't Stephon Diggs do? Touchdowns? Okay. 3 years ago, 8 touchdowns. Then 2 years ago, 10 touchdowns, and then 11 touchdowns. So the touchdown numbers are there. This guy just models consistency. He's kind of like a Keenan Allen, but scores touchdowns. I say Keenan Allen because Keenan Allen is consistent 100 reception type guy. But Diggs has shown that, hey, he can be that consistent over 100 reception type guy. Then he gets you the yards. He gets you more yards than a Keenan Allen consistency. Then he also gets you the touchdown numbers. The touchdown numbers is what separates Stephon Diggs from a lot of wide receivers. And that's why Stephon Diggs came in at number 8 for me. Number 7. Y'all ready for this? I had to go with another OG. And we try to count this guy out, but you can't count this guy out. This guy is still the fastest player in the NFL. And this guy right here is an absolute dog. And this is Tyreek Hill. We all thought, okay, Tyreek Hill leaving and going to play with Tua. Oh, Tyreek Hill is not going to be good. You got folks selling Tyreek Hill. You got folks concerned about Tyreek Hill. Put the ball in his hands, and this guy goes ahead and makes plays. He comes in on my list at number 7. He's 28 years old. He's going to be 29. We get that. But something that you cannot teach is speed. Let's look at the last 2 years without, the last 2 years on the Chiefs, the best offense in the NFL, who just won a Super Bowl, I might add. So in 2020, Tyreek Hill had 87 receptions, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. So the 15 touchdowns is like the amazing thing. That's what sets Patrick Mahomes aside from every other quarterback in the league, is that Patrick Mahomes makes sure his targets get touchdowns. If Stephon Diggs was playing with Patrick Mahomes, oh my goodness, Stephon Diggs might be the first wide receiver selected every single year, regardless of age, just because Patrick Mahomes is that dude. Just imagine a Devontae Adams playing with a Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter if Devontae Adams is 35. People are still going to select Devontae Adams in redraft leagues, number 1 overall, just because of that. So Tyreek Hill, in 2020, 15 touchdowns. He had, nice season, great season. In 2021, he refined his game. He ran more routes. He was targeted 159 times. He caught 111 receptions. You're like, oh, man. Tyreek Hill has the kind of style or the kind of game to, get 100 receptions in a season. Wow. I thought he was just a speed burn. I thought he was just the guy that goes deep and you throw the ball and he catches and he scores and he does the peace sign. He's more than that. He refined his game in 2021. He still had 1,200 yards, which is amazing. Then he had 9 touchdowns, less than the year before, but it's all good. He got more receptions, so the receptions is matching the lack of touchdowns from 15 to 9. But the most important thing is this guy goes to the Miami Dolphins. We all were scared. We all were worried. And this guy just came out there and he produced at a high clip. This guy was even on pace to break the record. He was on pace to have 2,000 yards this year. Then he kind of slowed down. He had some quarterback issues, injuries, inconsistency at the quarterback position. Even with all that being said, this guy still had 1,700 yards receiving. I mean, he was phenomenal. And 7 touchdowns. So the touchdown numbers kind of struggled, but guess what? He was still able to perform and still averaged 20 points per game, was number 3 in fantasy points per game. So this guy was amazing. I believe he was 2nd in yards in the NFL. I mean, he was up there in receptions. He was phenomenal. All this without Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy. Tyreek Hill comes in at my number 7. Now, my number 6 guy plays for that same team. He's a guy that I've been watching for years. He's a guy that I've believed in for years. He's a guy that I've always grabbed in startups his rookie season. And number 6 comes in is Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is phenomenal. The only reason I have Jalen Waddle above Tyreek Hill is age. Jalen Waddle continues to produce. He's 24 years old. This guy is a beast. Playing in his 2nd season, this guy just continues to produce. The numbers are not showing up here for me, which is bad, but it's all good. It's all good. Let me pull it up from another. Okay, here it is. So Jalen Waddle in his rookie season, he had 1,000 yards. He had 104 receptions, and then he also had 6 receiving touchdowns. So in come Tyreek Hill, and everybody's saying, oh, Jalen Waddle's not going to be able to succeed in an offense with Tyreek Hill. Oh, they're 2 smallest wide receivers. They have speed. We don't believe in Tua's arm. And this guy went out there and produced. He had less receptions, but he had more yards and more touchdowns. So in 17 games, he was targeted 116 times. because of the age, when Tyreek Hill falls off, Jalen Waddle is going to be in his prime, and he's going to be rocketed. I mean, he's going to be just amazing, especially if the Dolphins decide to upgrade the quarterback position. Tua is nice. Tua is great, but at the same time, Tua, the concussion. So in Dynasty, people are not buying Waddle. I am, because I believe in the talent, and I believe that even if Tua is gone, this is a guy that you throw the ball to him, he catches it, he can turn it up into like 80 yards. Jalen Waddle is that special. So this past season, he had 75 receptions, 1,300 yards, and he had 8 touchdowns. He averaged 15.2 points per game, which made him number 12 in points per game. But this guy right here was phenomenal. Next year, I'm expecting him to get more receptions. I'm expecting him to get possibly more yards. He's that talented, and he can definitely get one or two more touchdowns to add to what he was already able to do. So Jalen Waddle is my number 6 wide receiver in Dynasty. Now, if you guys have made it this far in this video, I want to appreciate you guys. I want to show you guys love. I want to thank you guys for being a supporter of the channel. Now, we go ahead and we move on to number 5. He's a guy that people are going to say, how do you have this guy over Jalen Waddle? For me, I think this guy is in a prime offense. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. This guy right here, he's going to be that next level of consistency when it comes to receptions. I think this guy's going to continue to be a 100 reception type guy. And that's similar to what what Jalen Waddle can do. The only reason why I have Amon-Ra St. Brown higher than Jalen Waddle is, for one, he's not battling for targets with anybody. Yes, you got a Jameson Williams, but I don't think that's going to affect Amon-Ra St. Brown too much. Opposed to Jalen Waddle, that's fighting for targets with Tyreek Hill, who went from 100 receptions to 70-something receptions. This guy's receptions is only going to go higher and higher and higher, especially with TJ Hockenson being gone. DeAndre Swift, we don't know what's going on there. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the new model of consistency. That Stephon Diggs type of level of consistency in terms of 100 receptions every single year. I think he's gotten to that level. He's going to continue to ascend. He's also 23 years old, so the age is awesome. Last year, he had 146 targets for 106 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. The touchdown numbers will go up. I saw a lot of good things out of Amon-Ra St. Brown this year, and that offense is humming. Jared Goff loves this guy. This is his security blanket, and I think that Jared Goff sticks around for a few more years, especially if the Detroit Lions continue to win games. If they're a winning team this year, you're going to see that connection grow even stronger and stronger and stronger. He's playing in a high-powered offense, so I love that. That's why I have Amon-Ra St. Brown slightly over Jalen Waddle. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a top 5 to top 7. You can kind of switch things around if you choose on your dynasty rankings, but I love Amon-Ra St. Brown as my number 5. At number 4, this is a guy that I struggled with, but you cannot dispute how good this guy is. This guy right here, he's as consistent as they come. And that's by the guy that goes by the name of A.J. Brown. I think that A.J. Brown is special. A.J. Brown is amazing, and the Titans are stupid for letting a player of this caliber go. Okay, the age. Okay, he's 25. He's going to be 26, but it doesn't matter. This guy right here, he's a alpha-type wide receiver, and he's playing with a quarterback that's getting better and better and better. Last 3 years, 70 receptions, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. In 13 games in 2021, he had 105 targets, 63 receptions, 800-plus yards, and 5 touchdowns. That was an injury-riddled season. He could have had 1,000 yards easily. And then in year 3, the A.J. Brown that we all know and love today, 146 targets, 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, almost 1,500 yards, almost. Okay? 11 receiving touchdowns. This guy is well on his way. He averaged 17.6 points per game. He came in as number 8 as per game wide receiver. I think that he's going to get better and better and better. And like I said, still at a great age of 25. The sky's the limit for this guy. He's in a high-powered offense, and they're going to keep that offense together for a while. There's going to come a time when Devontae Smith is going to outrank, or he's going to he's going to pass AJ Brown, but it's no time soon, maybe in 2 years. I think even then, AJ Brown is still going to be a productive player for your team for years. So go ahead and acquire AJ Brown. He's costing like 2 first-round picks right now, two 23 first, possibly like a 105 and 107 gets a deal done for a player of AJ Brown's caliber. This guy is special. He's going to continue to get better, man. Look, get all the AJ Brown shares while you can. He's amazing. I have AJ Brown as my number 4. But next year, things could change. I can see a guy like Waddle challenging for number 4, a guy like Garrett Wilson challenging for number 4, a guy like Devontae Smith challenging for number 4. Olave, all these guys are coming. There's even guys that are not on this list. This is pre-draft. After the draft, there might be some guys, 1 or 2 guys that possibly push for that top 5. So each year it changes. So for me, this year, this very moment, I have AJ Brown as my number 4. And number 3, I have a guy that I've been waiting for to do something for so many years, and he finally steps up. Number 3, I have CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has been amazing. CeeDee Lamb has been wow. This is the CeeDee Lamb that we all have been looking for. Year 1, he had 111 targets with Amari Cooper being there. He had 900-plus yards, 5 touchdowns. In year 2, 120 targets, 79 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. I needed every single category to go up, especially in a keeper league where I traded away Justin Jefferson in year 1 to get a CeeDee Lamb plus. Now CeeDee Lamb is definitely now giving me that production. He's one of those kinds of guys, and he's only going to continue to get better and better and better. And there's nobody on the Dallas Cowboys fighting for targets with CeeDee Lamb. That means his targets could definitely go up even more, and then that's what it's going to be. So this current year, 2022 season, he had 156 targets. He had 107 receptions, 1,300 yards, almost 1,400 yards. He had 9 receiving touchdowns. He's only going to get better. You're going to see CeeDee Lamb catching 12 to 14 touchdowns. That's who CeeDee Lamb is going to become. You can see CeeDee Lamb consistently being a 14 to 1,500 yard type guy, and then a guy that's catching up to 115 receptions a year. Mind you, Dak missed a good portion of the season. Dak coming back next year with CeeDee Lamb. I hate the Cowboys, but this is Dynasty. This is fantasy. I just think that this guy, man, he has untapped potential to where I can even see CeeDee Lamb possibly being number 2 on my list next year. There's no doubt in my mind that CeeDee Lamb can definitely beat out this next guy that I'm going to introduce at number 2. But at number 3, I have CeeDee Lamb. He's 23 years old. He's playing on a pretty good offense. He's 6'2". He has good size. And I think that the sky's the limit for a player like CeeDee Lamb. Hopefully he leaves the Dallas Cowboys one day. I'll be happy about that. And coming in at number 2, I got my guy, Jamar Chase. You know what I'm saying? Do the little gritty, do all that. He is phenomenal. He's 22 years old right now. He's a generational talent. Came in year 1. Didn't even have a lot of targets, really. 128 targets. He had 81 receptions, 1,400 yards receiving, and 13 touchdowns. This current season, this guy missed a lot of time, and he was still a dog. This dude played 12 games, and he put up numbers that people only wish that they can put up in 12 games. He had 87 receptions. He had 1,000 yards. He had 9 touchdowns. There's coming a time when you're going to see who Jamar Chase really is. There's coming a time you're going to see Jamar Chase with over 100 receptions, 15 to 1,600 yards receiving, and we're talking about 15 to 17 touchdowns. Jamar Chase is definitely capable. Even with the T. Higgins being there, Jamar Chase is going to get his, okay? This dude averaged 20.2 points per game, and he was number 4 per game for wide receiver. So you know the production is there. Had he played a full 17-game season, you're looking at over 100 receptions. You're looking at another 1,400 yard season, maybe even more. You're looking at 16 touchdowns easily. That's how good Jamar Chase is. And for the fact he was able to put up these kinds of numbers in only 12 games, coming off of an injury, it's amazing. It's amazing. Jamar Chase, number 2. And at number 1, you guys know him. You guys love him. There's only one other guy left. Come on, it's Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson comes in as my dynasty wide receiver, number 1. The guy is special. He's 24 years old. Each year, he just continues to get better. 2020, he had 125 targets. He had 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. And we were like, wow, this is amazing, right, for a rookie. And then Jamar Chase comes in the next year and breaks that record. So these LSU guys, phenomenal guys, next year in 2021, 167 targets, 108 receptions, 1,600 plus yards, 10 touchdowns. We're like, man, if this guy gets the right coordinator, the sky's the limit. People were saying this guy might throw up better numbers than Cooper Kupp. Some people laughed. Justin Jefferson is amazing. And what did he do this current year, 2022 season? He had 184 targets. He had 128 receptions. He had 1,800 yards plus, man. This guy could have easily gone for 2,000, but, they were winning. They were conservative. They ran the ball. Sometimes, they got the lead, and they did well. So they didn't really have to pass a lot. But even with the limited passing, with all the winning that these guys were doing, even running the ball well or decent, 1,800 yards. This guy had 8 receiving touchdowns. The touchdown numbers could have been higher, but I think 8 receiving touchdowns is pretty good. He averaged 21.7 points per game, and that was number 2 overall in a fantasy points per game for wide receivers. Justin Jefferson is my dynasty number 1 wide receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and run through my list one more time, and I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So number 1, I have Justin Jefferson. Number 2, I have Jamar Chase. Number 3, I have CeeDee Lamb. Number 4, A.J. Brown. Number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Number 6, Jalen Waddle. Number 7, Tyreek Hill. Number 8, Stephon Diggs. Number 9, we have Cooper Kupp. Number 10, Garrett Wilson. Number 11, Devonta Smith. Number 12, DK Metcalf. Number 13, T. Higgins. Number 14, Devontae Smith. Number 15, Chris Olave. And these are my dynasty wide receivers. This is pre-draft, and I don't even think there's any rookie that's being drafted, not even a guy that I love in JSN, entering this top 15, not this year. So next year, this list will definitely look a lot different. There's going to be guys who get phased out because of age. There's going to be guys who get phased out because of QB situations. There's going to be guys who get phased out because of a combination of the two, injury and philosophy of the team. So guys, this is your guy, Manny. This is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. I'm going to catch you guys on that next video. Please like, please subscribe, and please share it. And I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Peace.